Hey, boys and girls, we are almost done. So we are about to get started with lesson 32, assess and revise. So make sure you have your folder, make sure you have your book, make sure you have some creativity, and make sure you have some time before you get started with this. Hopefully this lesson will not take too long. All it is just assessing and revising your own work. So let's go ahead and let's get started. All right, so our last lesson, actually 2 lessons, included a lot of drafting. So there was quite a bit of writing, but that's okay. Now, we completed our first draft of the culminating writing task and added transition words and phrases to make connections clear, okay? So you should have spent some time with that, and it's okay if it took you a while. It's okay if you had to take some breaks, okay? We want you to take breaks if you need it. We don't want you to get stressed out. We don't want you to get burnt out with this, okay? So take breaks when you need it, come back and then finish the lesson, okay? Or finish as much as you can. Now, let's go ahead and let's look at what you're going to be doing today. Thankfully, it's not too much, all right? So today we're going to do 3 things. The first thing is we're going to review the contents of the culminating writing task rubric. The second thing is we're going to conduct a self-assessment. And the third thing we're going to do is revise our draft. Now, when you're doing this, again, take your time, make those revisions if they need it. If it doesn't need a lot, it's okay. Now, sometimes there are some people who decide, they don't like it, their work. Guys, take a step back, take your breather, get your parent to read it if you need to, and before you decide if you want to scrap it. Like at this point, you don't really want to do that, okay? So anyway, let's look at the revising and let's kind of look at what all we're going to need for this today. So you are going to need quite a bit today, but that's okay. The first thing you're going to need is your copy of Out of the Dust, okay? Second thing is the culminating writing task directions. That's mostly just to make sure that you're staying on task with what you're supposed to be doing, okay? So remember, that's on page 38. Just kind of look back at that. That's your writing prompt, so make sure that you're following along that writing prompt. The third thing is an argument, sentence stems, and transition words and phrases handout. You use that a lot with this last little bit, okay? That's on page 3. The fourth thing you're going to need is that culminating writing task rubric. I've posted a copy for you on, excuse me, I've posted a copy for you on the Microsoft Teams notebook. So make sure that you check that out there. It even says like Out of the Desk writing rubric, okay? You'll need your argument revision checklist. That's on page 39, and then your reading log. So let's go ahead and let's talk about the rubric. Okay, so let's get started by looking at the rubric, okay? Now, the one that's posted on Microsoft Teams, I'm going to check out where it says in the notebook or in the content library, where it has Out of the Dust and then writing rubric. Now, the one that is in there is kind of shorter like this. It's not as long as it's here. Now, we're going to look at 2 things, okay? We're going to look here. It says read the description of the achievement level in the first column, column 3, and that this is the level you're aiming for. Okay, so what it's talking about right here is this column. Okay, now the first thing that we'll be talking about in depth is this right here. Okay, so where it says reading comprehension and written expression. All of those things are talking about is when you're reading it, do you understand what the text is trying to say? Do you understand that figurative language? Do you understand what it means when it's like literally saying something? And can you express it in your writing? Can you show your understanding? So the score points for that one, it says the student response demonstrates comprehension of ideas stated explicitly and or inferentially. Now that means explicitly means like if it's talking about, Blazer running away, it literally means her running away. Now, when it says inferentially, that's where it's been talking about figurative language, okay? So where we've been using a lot of figurative language, where we're looking at metaphors, or we've been looking at themes, things like that, that is what it means with inferentially, when that figurative language is being used. And it says by providing a mostly accurate analysis. So that mostly accurate means that it's okay if it's a little off, because for the most part, the analysis is correct, okay, that you're catching on to what the author is trying to say. The next one, it says addresses the prompt and provides mostly effective development of the claim or topic that is mostly appropriate to the task, purpose, and audience. So again, you're responding to that prompt, like you're restating it, you're answering that question, and that you're keeping it on track. You're not going off track with it. You're following along. You're keeping that on track. And it's appropriate, okay? So
while you're talking about out of the desk, you're talking about things that we've already been talking about. You're talking about, you know, the articles. You're not going off on some tangent. It says uses mostly clear reasoning supported by relevant text-based evidence and the development of the claim or topic. So where you've been filling out that argument sentence structure, that's where this comes in handy, okay, for sections like that. Okay, so that right there, see if I can get it right, where I just talked about that is this, that reasoning, okay, is organized with mostly clear and coherent writing. So that just means that when it's coherent, it's understandable. I'm not confused when I read it. And it says establishes and maintains a mostly effective style. So that style of writing is you are talking about, like, you're being professional with it, okay? You're not just kind of talking like you would talk with a friend. You would talk like you're talking to a teacher, or like you're explaining something to the class. The knowledge of language and connections, this section right here. Now, we've been talking about Quill, and this is why we've been talking about Quill. It says here, the student response demonstrates full command of the conventions of standard English at an appropriate level of complexity. There may be a few minor errors in mechanics, grammar, and usage, but meaning is clear. That Quill that we've been talking about, those are things to practice, those are things to practice those skills, to practice those mechanics, to practice punctuation or apostrophes or commas, okay? That's where that knowledge of language and conventions comes in, okay? Where it's talking about that, it's talking about the knowledge of the English language. You understand how it works. So that's what the rubric is. To get like a B or something, you're going to shoot for this. Now, to get above average, you're going to shoot for this column right here, okay? So go through, check these out, read through them carefully, and assess your writing by using this rubric, okay? So again, look on Microsoft Teams for that. Now, let's look at the next thing, like, all right, so when you're done with that, what do we do next? Okay, so after you've looked at your rubric, after you've kind of seen what you're aiming for, make sure your writing is lining up with that, go ahead, turn to page 39, okay? So again, that is page 39, all right? And you're going to look at your argument revision checklist. So let's take a look at this here. There's 11 things it wants you to check. So again, read each item on the checklist. Read your draft aloud to yourself quietly. Make improvements to your draft. So let's read through this together, okay? So read your draft that you've written, okay? So take a minute, pause, read this out loud, okay? Don't read it in your head. Actually read it out loud. And then when you're ready, after you finish reading it, press again to get the video playing, and then we'll continue on, all right? So press pause now. Okay, so you should have read this out loud to yourself. If you haven't, press pause and then get ready to go and play this again. But we're going to go ahead and start reading this. So the first one, if you look, there's two columns. There's the self-evaluated, and there's a peer. Now, obviously, we can't do a lot of peer evaluation. If some of you maybe want to like switch stuff, like do FaceTime or something like that, go for it. Or if maybe you can get your mom or dad to look at it, or grandparents, or whoever you're staying with to look at it, that's fine too. But let's look at this. If this is there, if you can answer yes to the question, you're going to put a Y. If you're going to answer a no to a question, you're going to put in. So the first question is about your introduction. All right. Number 1, introduction. Does my thesis statement make it clear what my position is? Okay, so is it answering the question, and is it like making clear where you're standing on that question? So answer yes or no. Number 2, have I summarized my reasons in my introduction? All right, so have I summarized my reasons in my introduction? Yes or no? Number 3 through 7 are all about your body. 3, does each body paragraph begin with a clear reason statement? Yes or no? If no, go ahead and look at the sentence stems on page 3, okay? Question 4, have I explained how each reason supports my claim? Yes or no? If you say no, go back to that argument sentence organizer and see how you can make where your each reason is going to support your claim. Question 5. Do all the sentences in each body paragraph relate to the same reason? Yes or no? Remember, they should all be with the same reason, okay? Because each paragraph supports the reason. Question 6. Do I have enough pieces of evidence to support each reason? Yes or no? Remember, we want to have at least 2 to 3, okay? 2 to 3. You don't just want to have one piece of evidence. 7. Body. Have I explained how each piece of evidence supports the reason? So remember, there's the reason, explanation, evidence, explanation. If you put no for that, go back to that argument sentence organizer and make sure that you can look at it and be like, okay, this is what my reason is. So the conclusion for number 8. Did I restate my thesis statement using different wording? So remember, you have to wrap it all up in the conclusion. So you're going to say, this is what I think, but you're going to change the wording a little bit. So instead of saying, I'm going to show, this is how I showed it. So again, yes or no. Number 9, did I summarize the information in my body paragraphs in a new way? So everything that you've talked about, maybe write it in, summarize each paragraph into one sentence if you put no for here. All right, so again, take each body paragraph and summarize it into one sentence. Question 10, conclusion. Did I leave my reader something new to think about? Okay, so yes or no. Remember, you want them to be thinking, but you don't want them to kind of second guess what you've said. All right. And 11, how many transition words or phrases have I used? So that one, you're going to count them all up, and then what you're going to do is write that in the blank there, all right? And it says, are there any places I could add one to make connections between ideas clearer? So yes or no. If there's a place, find it, and then put it in. Again, and use page 3 in your purple folder to help, all right? So you should have been filling this out while we were going along with it. If you didn't, that's completely fine. But go through, fill this out, and what you're going to do is I'm actually going to put the form up and have you record what you said about this, okay, if you said yes or no. So this is all we're going to do for that. So when you're ready, we're going to move on, all right? So if you haven't gone through and done this checklist, press pause, and then press play when you have finished this checklist. All right, if you're here, that means you've pressed play and you have finished going through your checklist on page 39. So before I say the wrap up, remember, submit your work in Microsoft Teams now, okay? So we're still doing those forms. The only difference is now that I have those assignments posted in Teams to kind of get you used to that, because we're trying something new, and so we're trying this out here. We're just posting these assignments in here. Everything else is still where you've been finding it. Excuse me. Now, in this lesson, you revised your draft using a rubric and a self-assessment checklist, okay? So, if it said you need it, then make that revision, okay? Make sure those things are added in there. Make sure that it's clear, all right? You also discussed how your work would be scored. So, again, I'm scoring your work based on this rubric right here, all right? Based on this right here. All right, and again, you can find a copy of that on Microsoft Teams in the notebook, okay? So in that notebook area. So I'm going to put that up here as a quick reminder. Rubric in notebook, all right? So right here. Rubric in notebook. All right, so it's a little messy. So I hope everyone was able to finish this. This shouldn't be too long to do. I hope it's not too long to do. Remember, take some breaks if you need them. Go outside. Enjoy weather when it's good, and also enjoy time with your family if you can, okay? So, I miss you all. Hopefully, I will get to talk to you soon. We only have one more LDS lesson after this, and then we're done with the book. I'm so excited. I know you're probably excited too. All right. So I will see you in the next lesson. Bye, guys.